Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Motor City Metrics here at TigerMinerReport.com. I'm Rogelio Castillo. Alongside me is Uper, John, and Chris will be along with us shortly. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to the podcast. And of course, you can find us now on our new home at TigerMLReport.com. As I'm starting to put all the episodes up there. Plenty to get to, especially even tonight. There's not been one eventful there's not been a night where it's not been eventful in Toronto for the Tigers, as they are up 2-1 in the, I believe it's the fifth. Is it the fifth inning or the sixth inning?
I think they're in the sixth.
In the sixth. Okay, we're gonna be put up the game day feature here shortly, but yeah, there's plenty to discuss, and we'll get to what happened here shortly. But I wanted to, before we start the show properly, I wanted to. We got a nice review. This was actually a really good review that we received yesterday or a couple days ago, and we'll get to everybody's questions here on YouTube in a second, because that's why I wanted to address the review, because I thought it was important to start things off with that. So we got a 4-star review, and the reason why I wanted to mention this is because it's kind of something that we're, for a long time, the show, if you're not a long time listener, it's been a show where it used to be just audio. We didn't have the video component until recently. And Chris and I would used to do it on Skype, and we just kind of figure out cadence and all that. And so we try to figure out when to talk and all that. And anyway, we're now getting more of an audio element, or an element too, by people like Alex and Christopher in our chat, which we really appreciate. But there's people who have been listening to us hardcore on the audio side of things for a long time. And we had a nice review, and I'm stalling for time because I'm just pulling up now. But here, the review was from the person's name goes by the name of Canadian Lex. And first and foremost, Lex, thank you for sending that in. I appreciate it. So here it is. First, I really want to say that I really appreciate the effort put in this podcast. The content's really good. If you're interested in the Tigers and want good, consistent, in-depth analysis of both the major league team and the farm, this is the podcast for you. However, the reason why I didn't give it 5 stars, and in my opinion, the podcast is not designated for audio consumption. You guys keep asking for feedback, so here it is. Right. As an audio-only listener, you have to deal with instances where the host will play a video and discuss it, and you won't have the context for it. Also, hosts will respond to chat. I think they're broadcasting live on YouTube, making the audio experience a bit challenging, as they will forget to sometimes pivot and not finish the thought completely back, then maybe come back to it later. The format is more like a bunch of dudes sitting around a table chatting about the team than podcasts are focused on audio-only delivery. So it can be challenging in the audio-only format. That all being said, they have awesome insight, and it's worth listening to. Keep up the great work. Lex, thank you for that review. And that's dead on. Sometimes we do get on the YouTube chat side of things, and we kind of forget a little bit about that. So, but we appreciate the feedback. That's honestly very good. So thank you for that. And we'll like I said, we'll be more conscious of that going forward as we try to with the show. So, all right, all that business on the way. Javier Baez. Let's start the podcast with Javier Baez and the blunder that is the Javier Baez decision there. I don't know. So if you're okay, so for everybody watching us on YouTube, this is what, like, so I'm gonna try to find the video of it now. It's all over Twitter, but for those at home, I'll put the link in the description, and so you can see what happened. So maybe that actually might help if we do it that way. But see here. So I got it. Okay. Yeah, this is one of those moments where when I saw it happen, I was kind of perplexed. It happened in the first place, because I wasn't sure what was going on.
So I mean, this is chase percentage always up near the top of the league. Yeah. This one to center, and Baez doesn't know how many outs there are.
And
another mistake.
To get Baez
at Baez.
Yeah, so and Badu hit a line drive to center field, but Baez was on second in scoring position and forgot how many outs there were and ran right to third and got doubled off. And so for the listeners, that's exactly what happened. And he got yanked. Hinch took him down the hallway and told him, "You're out of here." And Baez, I think, understood it. He wasn't happy, but I don't think he was pissed off at AJ Hinch. I think he was kind of pissed at himself. But this felt like the culmination of just a series of really boneheaded plays by the Tigers over the last couple days. I mean, we were joking about it in one of our chats. The media scrum, like the first 6 questions for AJ Hinch were about separate disastrous things that happened in yesterday's game. It was like, oh man, yeah, like you could tell Hinch is not happy, and so yeah, he had to make a statement there, and that's supposed to be your veteran leader, and so you do that, and hopefully that sends a message throughout the clubhouse.
And so I think, go ahead, Uper.
Well, on the Baez play there, it was actually the second mistake there in that sequence, because when he hit the ball off the fence for his double, he admired it way too long. He would have had a chance at a triple. And if he's on third and Baddoo hits the same fly ball, that's a run. Mm-hmm. So it was really an embarrassing thing for a veteran to then compound it and forget how many outs there are.
So for those listening at home, we put on YouTube the StreamYard via what was posted on Canadian television, and that's Hinch taking Baez aside, telling him pretty much you're out of here, and he took his stuff, he was out of there. So, and I mean, even the shot where Hinch is like looking afterwards when it happened, it just total 100%. Like, I just can't believe that just happened.
Yeah, I mean, this is the big leagues, man. It's Eric Haas running on a ground ball to shortstop in front of him and getting thrown out. It's Matt Vierling not sliding into second base and getting tagged out. It's Baez admiring a double and then not knowing what out it is. It's like there's a pall over this team. They're in a fog altogether for some reason. In who knows what the deal is, but Hinch has to do something, and so this is a start. I mean, people probably want to see him lose his, blow his top and yell at an ump or whatever, or yell at the players, throw stuff around. But that doesn't seem to be his style, really. But it does feel like it's getting to a boiling point.
Yeah. So you say there's a fog. Do you think that fog could maybe be AJ Hinch not being able to motivate his players, not being, the leader that they need in the clubhouse?
No, I just think this team's terrible, flat out. I mean, this team is in bad shape. Okay, has nothing. Hinch is at a loss. Hinch can only do so much. There is some questionable. You can question his decision on Tuesday to put Mason Englert in a situation like that and left him in there. You can question yesterday with Trey Wingeter and how he put him in the ninth, even though Alex Lang had a 12 pitch clean eighth inning. You can do it all you want, but as far as I'm concerned, I think I look at it this way, and people will give me crap for it, and that's fine. He has to see what he has, because if you put Trey in a situation like that, you want to know if he's a closer. And clearly, Trey knew that he let the team down yesterday. There was no denying that. Could not locate his fastball. The only thing he had was a slider, and that was just a situation where. And then he brought in Cisnero, first pitch, game over. You knew that Toronto was going to win at that point. I mean, you knew Toronto was going to win when they tied the game, and he can only do so much. The manager is only as good as his roster. But when you see the Matt Vierling thing, as Chris was talking about earlier, that is a fundamental little league. You get called out for not sliding.
Yeah, just back to the Javier Baez point. I know it's early in the season, but I've seen a lot of people, getting upset, saying, we still have 4 years, $100 million left. Like, this is an albatross. Like, what are your guys' thoughts towards his kind of future in Detroit? Because for me, it feels like a lot of fans are just under the assumption that, like, we're stuck with him at this point.
Hubert, I'll let you kick off that one.
Well, I think that odds, if you're going to make me bet my own money on it, yeah, he's going to be a Tiger for another 4 seasons after this year. I don't know who would trade for that contract. I mean, that's probably unlikely unless he got extremely hot. I don't know why, with $80 million coming off 2 subpar years, assuming he continues down this path, why he would opt out. I mean, that makes very little sense financially anyway. Unless from a baseball standpoint, he just wants to shop himself around and do something else. I guess that's possible, but I wouldn't count on it. They need to find a way to get him focused and get him ready to play and, be the productive guy that he has shown in the past. How they're going to do that, I don't know. You would hope something like tonight is a wake-up call for him. But, none of us are in Javi Baez's headspace. What this does for him, I don't know. But yeah, if I'm betting my own cash, I would say he's going to be around for a while.
Meanwhile, down in Toledo, Malloy got another double, got another hit, and they're up now.
6 now.
Yeah, they were down 5-0, correct?
Yeah, and looks like Erie just tied it at 6.
Yep, Trey Cruz single. So, as far as go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one of the things. So, in terms of being stuck with him, the bottom line is I would be surprised. Look, he can opt out after this year. Will he opt out? More than likely not. And Tiger, but what I don't understand, this is something I've been seeing on Twitter, is this revisionist history that they knew, because based off what Mike Valenti said on 97.1 that it was a bad idea since the first day. Cut it out. Everybody was excited. There were some people that were skeptical about it, but you knew what you were signing with Baez, a free swinging shortstop, a guy who has mental lapses I'm not sure about the mental lapses, but you knew he was a free swinger. You knew he struck out a lot. But to act like this was all brand new to you, some of these fans and some of the reactions is laughable to me, because who else was going to play short in that market? Who else was the Tigers supposed to do?
Well, let's remember that offseason. First of all, I agree with you. If any fan is saying that we didn't know he plays like this and has these extremely ugly stretches of baseball, then they're not paying attention. You are correct. But last offseason, there were 5 shortstops on the market, right? And I think universally, you should never use that word. I would say a lot of people would have ranked him number 5 in terms of who they wanted, right? And they didn't make a big play anybody other than perhaps Carlos Correa. Illich can say, yeah, we signed a free agent, Javi Baez, and look what it did to us. But you went and got the 5th most attractive one out of 5, in my opinion. And it's not break the bank money. So I don't give them that big a credit for spending either. I just think they spent poorly.
Yeah, and he's the one I feel like that would age the worst too, because I feel like he's, the way he plays the game, he's more based on his athleticism to some of the other free agent shortstops that were signed.
Well, again, I think people fail to mention, I'm not trying to knock Detroit as a baseball destination, but it's not exactly a free agent destination. So they had to do what they had to do. But at the same time, again, this buyer's remorse thing is kind of, to me, somewhat ridiculous, because I will say this, and this is kind of when, you know what Ray in our YouTube chat said, Tigers could have signed Correa if they had waited him out. Probably true. I don't, to what extent, I don't know. But the biggest thing that we've discovered under Al Avila is that they sometimes don't even call people. They have one, no, seriously, they sometimes don't pick up the phone, or they ask for the moon and the stars and trade teams, and people are just it's just like this. What you want? No, they're not going to be played because they know better. So to me, it's just the principle of the whole thing is that Baez, it was probably one of only few names that they called. We don't know. It's all in terms of speculation. But if this is the kind of laziness we got from Vila, I want to say laziness, rather. Let me rephrase that: a lack of attention to detail, and they didn't get creative.
Passive.
Yeah, there we go. Passive. That's a good word to put it, Uber. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, the only hope you have right now for Baez to not be here for another 4 years is that he's so miserable here that he's willing to throw away $80 million or something like that to just get anywhere else. It's possible he gets super hot and maybe you can work out a bad contract for a bad contract trade. In the past, I suggested an era or to the Angels, the third baseman Rendon for Baez. But no, I mean, I don't see it happening. I think the Tigers are stuck with Javier Baez, and you're going to have to deal with his quirks. Now, normally, I don't consider him a player with these sort of mental issues, like mental lapses. He's normally a really heady player, Like just the other day, remember he deked the shortstop, I think it was, or third baseman into throwing to first, and then made it to third to get into scoring, in sacrifice fly range to score a run. He's usually a pretty smart player, so he's distracted or unhappy or something, and it's not good. So it's tough.
Yeah, I think the double whammy tonight of pimping the ball when you're hitting $120, and then the confusing the number of outs, double whammy hurt him, but piled on top of last night. I think guys do forget how many outs there are. They don't get pulled every time, But I think the way things have gone over the last 72 hours for the Tigers, Hinch needed to knock some people against walls.
Yeah, he has every right to be just as fed up because it's, again, you can blame Hinch on some of the decisions you can make. You can go and overanalyze it and say Hinch is a bad manager, blah, blah, blah. This is the deck of cards you've gotten.
Well, yeah, and we could talk a little bit about, there was a lot of discussion about, and we were talking about it when we were on the road home from Erie. We were talking about who's going to pitch the eighth, who's going to pitch the ninth. It was like, okay, Lang pitched the eighth, only 12 pitches. Thought maybe he'd go back out there, but and I don't think Hinch wanted Wingenter to fail or thought he would, but I do wonder if there's a little bit of, Scott Harris, this is what you've given me.
Yeah.
Like these are the big leaguers you've given me. And who knows if in the offseason he said, hey, I'd like to get some bullpen help, and Scott Harris might have told him like, hey, we'll get you some bullpen help, and it's Chasen Shreve and Trey Wingenter. We don't know. We don't know any of those details, but like it's the big leagues, right? You got to go out there and you got to perform, and relievers sometimes struggle and fail, but what are you doing on the roster if you can't throw strikes? Basically, it's tough. I feel for Trey Wingenter because that was a good opportunity for him, and he just didn't seize it, and he might not get another one to be a closer. But yeah, I don't necessarily. You can blame Hinch, right? Like they lost a game that they should have won, but you got 26 players and you got to use them. So I don't know. That one just that hurt, but it's a product of what the roster looks like.
Yeah, I just want to throw in the top of the 7, Tigers had bases loaded. I believe nobody out, and they failed to score. Yeah.
Let's see, yes.
I don't know why we're acting surprised about that too. It was, I think, and I would agree with what Cameron said in here, which is in a YouTube chat. He said, I don't think it was malice towards Harris. I think he wanted to give him an opportunity after how well he did in Houston, and I could see that. I don't. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't. Like I said, I don't think like AJ Hinch can see the future and knew that Wingenter was gonna fail. But I think he wants to see what he has on this team. Is this a guy I can trust to pitch in the ninth? And the answer is no. At least so far, that was pretty demonstrably proven. When you went out there and he threw 4 strikes out of however many pitches. It was
15.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously Hinch wants to win games, but he also needs to know what kind of team he has. And I don't know. It's he probably wanted to reward Wingenter, but I think he did not. That was that looked more like a punishment.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's early in the season. Me and Uper talked about this, how earlier in the season the teams are trying to figure out who they are, and especially for the Tigers, who aren't trying to compete. I think they're just trying to figure out, who they are and who they can build around for the long term. And to this AJ Hinch being mad at Scott Harris for not, let's say bringing back Michael Fulmer or, adding relievers to this bullpen. I don't know if that's really a Scott Harris thing or if that's just a Chris Ilitch thing and him not wanting to spend any money.
I hate saying they quote unquote, they're trying not to be competitive. They're just, it's such a, I don't know, that's such a loaded statement to me. They're going out there and trying. Are they good? No. This early season has shown they're not. But it's putting a competitive product out there for people to watch. No, because it's just not a good team. And it's in terms of I don't know, right now. And that's, I'm glad that Sergio said Soto was 30 for 33 in save opportunities last season. So far this season, Tigers relievers are 1 for 3. For all of you complaining about Gregory Soto last year, Everybody, Gregory Soto sucks. 93% save percentage doesn't mean anything. I don't care. I'm doing the voice right now, whether you like it or not. I don't care at this point. I really don't. But if everybody complained about his save percentage last year, it doesn't mean anything. Well, it meant something now because you wish you not right now, obviously, because he's been floating in Philadelphia. But my point is,
he fit right in with Detroit.
Yeah. To me, it's just who knows what he be, but that's what I'm talking about. Like we talk about, the Tigers really are what they are, and I think debating whether going back and forth whether or not they're going to be a 500 team or right now at this point, I just like the Tigers to. They had a really competitive game yesterday until the bullpen blew it. They're leading Toronto right now. Toronto's a damn good team. Can we talk about how good Toronto is for a moment? Man, Kevin Kiermaier, he's Spider-Man. The guy's Spider-Man. The guy is amazing. He robbed Kerry Carpenter of a home run. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is doing phenomenal things. Bo Bichette, they have no. You look at their lineup. It's like how do you get a break?
Well, yeah.
And then yesterday, the pitching performance of probably one we're seeing right now is of Kevin Gausman is probably one of the best split fingers we've seen in a long time. The guy was money until Nick Maton. I thought for sure the Tigers were not going to do anything until Nick Maton hit that home run. But that's what I'm talking about. There's some competitive fire in there. We see him come back late in games. It's just the skill level is where it matches. So
I never meant to imply that like the players aren't.
Oh no, I'm not saying that. It was somebody in the chat, I should say. Sorry.
I think the players are doing what they can. They're making mistakes, probably from trying too hard, actually. But to John's point, like, yeah, I think there's an Illich factor here. I think Scott Harris had a budget, and Scott Harris spent the budget on a couple starting pitchers. And I don't know. I don't know if Hinch wanted bullpen help too, or hitters too, or like they could have spent a lot more money, and they didn't. And this is what happens. They tried to get some better hitters because last year was a disaster, of course. And to do that, they had to get rid of a couple of their relievers, and you're seeing the results of that.
If Michael Lorenzen and Matthew Boyd is your budget, if you run up against the top line of what you're allowed to spend on those two guys, that's an ownership problem.
Yeah.
That's an ownership problem all day long. I know that's the drinking game. Drink up, boys. We'll probably talk about it again in a little bit. When we say they aren't competitive, that starts at the top. That point can never be hammered home too few times because other teams aren't doing that. Okay, they're just not. They're looking to compete. They can spend some money, and the Tigers had the money. It's a lie that they don't. And it's just, you have to believe Scott Harris was neutered in some respects by Illich because he came in last year saying that, there was a quote, right? Pretty much all avenues are in play, right? To improve this team. Well, that didn't happen. Okay. And I will say he had a bear covered from Avila on trades. Okay. You weren't going to get a lot. So you had the free agent market and they pretty much sat it out. And I don't count Michael Lorenzen and Matthew Boyd as a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah. Well, to the spending money point, if you really let's say you take the top two free agents from last year's free agent class and you put them on the Tigers, how much of a difference is that really going to make? I think Scott Harris wanted to see, the core of what he had and if they can really compete. For me, I think free agency, it's once you win 80 games, then you add those free agents to get you over the hump. That's what Avila did when they won 77 games. But this team obviously is not good enough to compete. So realistically, is adding one or two big names really going to make that much of a difference?
Yeah, it is actually. And I say that because I'm saying not necessarily big names, but you can be smart and pick up a free agent and you can be smart about it. I'm not saying the Tigers have to go out and sign a big name. Rather, they could get a name and go, this guy could be effective. We could plug him, left-handed stick that could provide something. Because, again, you look at, you're going into another season where, Justin Henry Malloy is in the ball out of Toledo right now, and Andre Lipsius had 3 hits tonight. Those are two options that you didn't have last year. Granted, so maybe that's where they were going with that. But you can't tell me that if the Tigers had signed a bat, another even like just a bat, like a left-handed bat,
Brandon Drury, for instance.
Brandon Drury, or even I don't know, Adam Duvall.
Yeah.
That wasn't a cost-effective free agent would make a big difference and would solve those things. And so, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Well, I mean, that's what they did the last couple of years. That's Robbie Grossman, that's Jonathan Scope, that's CJ Crone, that's Austin Romine. And it did look like it worked in 2021. It looked like they were a team that hey, we got some decent veterans now. Let's get some better veterans, and we'll have our young guys come up. And then all the veterans, all the decent guys just completely soiled themselves. And for whatever reason, that seems to have continued into this year. And I don't know, like, that doesn't mean you don't keep doing it, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just tough to live like that when you're going out and getting these middling free agents and you sign them for a 1 or 2 year deal. Sometimes it works out and other times it doesn't. And then you're blocking guys like Andre Lipsius and Justin Henry Malloy, at least for half of the year before you decide, you know what, Jonathan Scope, thank you. Here are your walking papers. Let's have a younger guy and see what he can do. So it I don't know. My main hope, and we've talked about this a lot, is that Scott Harris will be much more decisive in will make decisions more quickly than Al Avila did, and not let this sort of sit and marinate for 3 seasons before you decide to make a move. But we haven't seen that yet. But of course, we're in Game 12, right? So
right.
It's the problem is that fans have the last 200 games in the back of their mind. They're like, this is awful. Do something. And he's got his own plans, and we're just gonna have to sit and wait and see what he does. But I do think that this is a terrible, terrible start to a baseball season for any team.
Right.
And I don't feel like he's just gonna sit and be like, cool, it's fun, let's keep trying. I don't think he's gonna put up with it for too long. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll see.
Well, yeah, I remember at the end of last year, they played really good. Like, I remember at one point, I think they were like 10-2 to start when Scott Harris took over, and they were playing really well towards the end. But I think, like, to the veteran free agents, like Adam Duvall and Jerks and Profar, I'm sorry, what difference are they going to make here? Like, they might have a decent first half, but then what? You're going to trade them and get some mid-level prospect that probably isn't going to see much of Detroit. Like, I think they're better off just giving guys like Ryan Kredler and young pitchers, opportunities. I don't really see the point in signing those veteran, stopgap players. You know
why? Because it makes you competitive. That's why.
Well, haven't they been competitive though? I mean,
no. I'm sorry. What team have you been watching, man?
I mean, in the series against the Blue Jays, they've been fairly competitive.
No, but I'm saying is, I'd rather have a vet. Like, look, if you're going to give the kids a chance, I'm also as much as we do for the Tiger Minor League Report. Yes, we want the prospects up here, absolutely. However, are they ready to make that jump from AAA to the major leagues? We don't know. And you got to take that chance to see what they have. Granted, I understand that. But if you have a veteran stopgap measure, because if this is a team with Scott Harris that was able to take veterans in San Francisco and make them better, wouldn't you think that he would try to do that here too? I mean, he did do that. I mean, he took a lot of waiver on guys, and suddenly, as Chris pointed out 2 years ago, they started hitting longer. The ball's harder and longer.
Yeah,
I'm 5 years old.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. Yeah, but a lot of those guys were like Tyler Nevins, right? The Darren Ruffs of the world. That was just they had some magic going on there that one year and then they had some legitimate great veterans who had awesome bounce back seasons. So I don't know, man. You go ahead.
How about the Padres going out and getting Xander Bogaerts and competing like hell to get Aaron Judge? Mm-hmm. What's keeping Detroit from playing at the top of the market besides lack of will?
We found out pretty quickly that the Tigers didn't have. I will admit I'm wrong. I'll admit it right now. I thought the Tigers had a lot of pitching depth. I was wrong. Right now, and you look at Reese Olson, he's off to a very bad start. He had his 3rd straight bad start in a row. Bo Brisky, you're not sure when he's coming back. And, and Ray does bring up a good point that Miguel Cruz is taking up a vital roster spot for his World Tour, retirement tour. I get it.
Yeah.
But you never, in Uper's, if Uper could have a T-shirt, it would have this phrase on it: "You can never have enough pitching." Uper and I come from that same school. You can never have enough pitching. Period. It has been, to me, you take a flyer on somebody, and that's the way they did with Chase Shreve and Trine Wingletter, and even to a certain extent Matt Whistler. But it's just, I don't know. You spend a little bit to make yourself competitive in a division that right now, look at the Twins. The Twins are scary. Look at what they're getting from Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray we'll talk about that too a little bit in our segments, but good God, man.
Put it this way, when you say you can't have enough pitching, right? Could you spend $20 million almost every offseason and build a good bullpen? $20 million.
You could build a good bullpen.
For $20 million, that's probably a lot. You could probably spend a little less. And I'm not saying they have to do it every year, but you telling me they couldn't have done that this year? Total choice.
Well, you've said all the time that bullpen you say are very they're very hot and cold. So yeah, you could go out and spend $20 million on a bullpen, but who's to say that that those guys are going to perform? I mean, how many bullpen arms have we seen just being picked up off the waivers? Like, guys like, Chase and Shreve and Winnegatner. Like, how many guys have we seen like that? Like, they
traded off or let go. They traded off their 4 best guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea that they were going to bring in from the scrap heap and what they had floating around in their system and replace those 4 guys and come up with a competent bullpen, that was a big old wish sandwich. Okay. That was a wish sandwich with a whole lot of mustard on it. And I'm just saying, if they really wanted to compete, the cash is there. And if you spend, and I just put 20 million because that was the first number that came in my head. If you spend $20 million on your bullpen every year, that's a drop in the bucket for a Major League Baseball team. I'm sorry, it is. They can afford it. And you could have a competent bullpen. And, a couple of those guys might turn out to be really good. A couple might bomb. But, you can put it together. Right now, they have nothing. The idea that this bullpen will look better if a month from now because a couple guys get hot, I'd be stunned. I mean, they have a lot of flotsam and jetsam out there right now. It's garbage.
Yeah. All right. So it is now time for our favorite segment. Well, we have a lot of favorite segments, but it's now in time for Inside the Numbers. We'll take a quick 5-second break here. So before we get to our Inside Number, we'll take a break. And we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. So I was just trying to break up a little bit of the show. It's kind of a new thing. And the Inside Number segment, I realized the music has our old show logo on there, so I cannot play that. So I have to get that fixed. So it is now time for Inside the Numbers. Uper, what is your Inside the Number today?
482. That was the number of feet Jared Kelenic smashed a bomb at Wrigley Field yesterday. Yes, the wind was blowing out. Still, second longest homer at Piggly Wiggly at Wrigley in the StatCast era. 491 was Contreras a couple years back in the playoffs. But 482 from Kelenic, longest Mariners home run in the StatCast era, and only 38 home runs longer than that in the StatCast era. Why do I bring it up? 3 games in a row, Kelenic's gone deep. His swing to me is just looking a lot easier, less choppy, and I think he might be coming on. He might have finally gotten to that point where he's ready to produce. We'll have to see. It's only 3 home runs in 3 games, but he's swinging the bat really nice. It's hard to fluke your way into a 482-foot bomb. Okay, so I'm interested to see if he can keep it up. I've always liked the player. He was the guy I wanted in the Casey Mize draft year, but certainly that was not looking like a good idea as recently as 2 weeks ago. So we'll just have to see where it goes.
All right. Chris, what is your insider number?
All right. Mine is 23.83. So that is Wilmer Flores's career ERA against the Altoona curve. We saw Wilmer Flores the other day, and he got roughed up by the curve for the third time. He's now pitched 21 outings in Double-A, not counting the playoffs, and given up 34 earned runs in 89.1 innings. So that's a 3.43 ERA. But in those 3 starts against Altoona, it's 15 earned runs and 5 2/3.
Wow.
So that 23.83 ERA. Against everyone else, 19 earned runs in 83.2 innings. So a 2.404 ERA. So for whatever reason, Altoona just has his number. And he didn't look good when we were watching him. I don't know if he's scared by the jersey colors or what, but yeah, it was rough. So just get him out there against anybody but Altoona, and he's still a good pitching prospect.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. So I was going through a pitch tracking. His changeup got hit. His slider, the only pitch that really didn't get hit hard was his fastball. I think one pitch was, but the hard hit contact came from the 2 changeups he was trying to throw and 1 slider. So, John, what is your inside number?
So yeah, I kind of took a simpler approach to this. I tried to look for trends, like for the Detroit Tigers, and one thing I found was in the 12 games they've played so far, they've scored the first run of the game 7 out of 12 times, which I think for you would say a good baseball team more times than not is going to score the first run of the game, and the Tigers have been able to do that 7 out of 12 times to start the season. So I don't know if that's a trend that we could see continuing moving forward, and if that could be a potentially good sign or not. But that was just something I was trying to look for. And then my other numbers I just had was 34 walks this season to 117 strikeouts. I just wanted to throw that in there because I was looking that up earlier today.
That's pretty good. So mine is -7 and mine is -6. And so the -7 is the runs swing and take for Sonny Gray. And Sonny Gray, like I mentioned earlier, has been off to talk about Pablo Lopez, and the -6 belongs to Pablo Lopez. But as far as what Sonny Gray is doing right now in Minnesota, this is his last year of a 5-year deal. So keep this in mind. But he has been money. His numbers right now, no one can hit his slider. Batters are hitting 0.71 against his slider right now. He has been what Minnesota's needed. Wow, 17 innings, 19 strikeouts. He's 2-0 with the ERA of 0.53. So then you're asking yourself what it is in terms of his xERA. It's 3.22. But still, this is a guy who, when healthy, shows that slider was one of his best pitches. So that's good. And the -6 is from Pablo Lopez. This is a deal that has worked out well for both teams because, as you may or may not know, Luis Arraez got hit for the single, became the first Marlin player in history to ever do that. So he's off to a good start. But Pablo Lopez has been just as clutch. In terms of -6, in terms of what he's been able to get the most swing and miss out of, really, it's come through the shadow of the zone. So he's getting a little bit of chase, but still, this is exactly what Minnesota needed. And Minnesota tonight just completely bombed New York. And so their offense was never a question. It was a starting rotation. And so if these two guys can get going, in addition to Joe Ryan, who's off to a 3-0 start, and Cleveland just suffering injuries right now, and the White Sox are doing the White Sox things, the Twins could run away with this pretty early on if they choose to. This is good. Their pitching staff, with the addition of Lopez, makes them the division favorite. So,
yeah, I just wanted to add real quick. Jason Foley pitched the 7th. They've got Cisnero in for the 9th, so probably Alec Lange is gonna get the save opportunity tonight.
Wait, you said Cisnero's coming in the 9th, though? You said
no, Cisnero's in the 8th.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll keep
see
track
all
of
that.
that. Yeah, I was gonna say we'll keep track of that too. Now it is time for the good, the bad, and the ugly this week, as you pretend to sometimes change it to the good, the bad, and the funky. And I actually kind of like that sometimes because it does play well. But John, I'll let you go first. What's your good and the bad, the ugly this week?
So I was talking to Uper. I wanted to try to stay a little more positive because I feel like there's a decent amount of negativity with the Tigers right now. So I did the great, and I just want to do Jared Kelenic because I know you touched on him a little bit, but he's looked absolutely phenomenal. He's slugging over 700. OPS is over 1100. And if he can be this type of hitter, 800, 900 OPS guy, be a middle of the order hitter, I think that goes a long way in the Mariners becoming a real contender in the AL and potentially making a run at the World Series. I think the Mariners have the pitching to win the World Series. I just was a little iffy on their offense. But if he can be that star, that middle of the order hitter to go along with Julio Rodriguez, I think they have enough to make a run at a World Series this year. So I think that's a really, really good sign for him, especially, all the criticism and the struggles he's had over the last couple of years. My good was Spencer Turnbull and Eduardo Rodriguez's last couple starts. I know we're pretty down on the Tigers pitching, but both of them shut down one of the better offenses in baseball. I thought Eduardo Rodriguez, 6 innings pitched, only gave up 1 run. Turnbull, I believe, through 5 innings, only gave up a run as well. I think Spencer Turnbull's stuff looked a lot better tonight. Got some good swings and misses. So I think those two are kind of the veterans of this staff until obviously Matt Boyd as well, and until Michael Lorenzen gets back. So to see them they haven't gotten off to the greatest start. I think Erod's been okay, but obviously Turnbull had some rough starts. So to see them have back-to-back good starts is a good sign for the Tigers. And then my bad would be Riley Green. He got off to a really, really good start, but these last couple of games, he's really, really struggling. In the series against Boston, he was 1 for 11, had 5 strikeouts with 0 walks. And then tonight he's 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. So he's really in a slump. Hopefully that's just what it is a slump, and he can get back to what he was doing the first couple games of the season. But yeah, he's really been struggling, and we looked at him to be kind of the leader of our offense and our best hitter. And it hasn't gone so good these last about week or so.
Yeah, and they definitely need his bat to come alive a little bit. His swing, a lot of people think his swing looks a little off. So, Chris, what is your good, the bad, the ugly this week?
Sorry, I was just watching the Erie game. My good is Matt Chapman. Viral stomach issues notwithstanding. The Blue Jays third baseman is off to a spectacular start this year. He's hitting .489 with 3 homers and 8 doubles. And so he's leading baseball with 1.3 WAR, at least the F WAR. And he's not grading out terribly well on defense right now, which we know is not really the case with him. He's at least an average defender, if not, a plus defender. So, yeah, he's could be well on his way to his best season ever, which I believe is a good time because I think he's a free agent after this year. So, funny how that always works. My bad is also Riley Green. I don't know if there's much more for me to add. As of right now, he's got a 34% strikeout rate and a 6% walk rate, which is good for 72 WRC plus and like a 109 ISO or 106. Just not cutting it. I believe in the kid. I think he's going to be good, really good one day. But obviously, he's going through it right now, and something's not working. So, gotta turn that around. And my ugly, I like to break this out once a year because it's Chris Sale, and I usually like to say, but I'm not talking out of his face. But yeah, he's off to a terrible start. Now he did shut down the Tigers after a couple. It was a home run or 2. I don't remember exactly, but
I think a couple walks too. I think, yeah.
Yeah, but he overall he owns an 11.25 ERA through 12 innings this year, 7.66 FIP. Worst ERA for a starter right now, and the second highest home run rate in baseball. He's still striking out a ton of people, so he's kind of turned into like 2019 Matthew Boyd, which is bad for Chris Sale. Like I always thought that he was like the best pitcher who hadn't won a Cy Young. It seemed like he was always the favorite through halfway in the year and then kind of just fell apart in the second half. And I don't know. He missed a lot of time and had some pretty major surgery. So I don't know if he's ever going to get back to who he was, but this is certainly not what the Red Sox were hoping for to begin the year.
Yeah, can I just correct myself real quick? It wasn't the series against the Red Sox. It was against Toronto. Riley Green is 1 for 12 with 5 strikeouts and 0 walks. Just wanted to correct myself because it was bugging me a little bit.
All right. Uper, what is yours?
Well, my good is related to the Rays and their 13-0 start. Now, I talk about the Rays a lot. I'm not going to talk about them this time, but they are 13-0. Been playing fantastic. What that brought back for me, though, with the Tigers playing this poorly, you kind of live in the past sometimes, brought me back to 1982. And 12-year-old me sitting in Upper Michigan when we didn't get the Tigers back then, watching the Atlanta Braves on WTBS get off to a 13-0 start. And I had never seen a team do that before. We were still a couple of years away from the 35-5 start in Detroit. And I was a huge Braves fan. Dale Murphy, Bob Horner, Rafael Ramirez, Bruce Benedict, Glenn Hubbard. Me and my dad watched them every day. And that 13-0 start for the 82 Braves was very memorable. Lots of comeback wins. Really played some great baseball. Ended up winning their division. They ended up being 13 games over 500 for the year. They basically played 500 baseball from that point. But that 13-0 start got them an NL West title that year. So Dale Murphy, still probably my favorite baseball player of all time, non-Tigers. Bad. We already talked about Chris Ilitch, but well, let's stay down that path because that's what I had in plan. Hey, Chris, this is the team you paid for. Okay, this is the team you paid for. People can talk about firing AJ Hinch. They can say Scott Harris is a disappointment. Great, have at it. Talk about that stuff all day. The tone starts at the top. Do you want the team to compete? I've said this before, but it's worth saying again. He was quoted that he has the fire inside to compete. Okay, when do we see it? We don't see it. I'd love to know how many of these games, these wretched baseball games they've played so far. I wonder how many he's watched. That'd be a great question. 2, 5, all of them? We don't know. We don't know what kind of, how involved in an owner is he? How bad does he want to do it? But right now, the product is really bad. Not quite 2003 bad, but it ain't far away from it. And that's his product that he signed off on. So bad job out of him. I went with the good, the bad, and the way back today. So I went way back.
You even went back even further than 1972 then?
I went way back. 1966, when the Beatles were big, cars were big, women's hair was big, everything was big.
Beehives.
And in the local Detroit area, there was a big star at the college level. The man went on to become a pitcher in the Wayne State University Hall of Fame, the Wayne State Winos or whatever they are. What are they called? I don't even know.
They were called the Warriors. They were the Tartans. What was it?
I like the Winos better, but okay. Wayne State Warriors, Hall of Famer, drafted by the Detroit Tigers in the 11th round.
Oh boy.
This gentleman's name, Robert Kloss. John, JFK, what can you tell us about Robert Kloss?
Not much, if I'm being honest. Yes, he was my uncle. I've only met him a few times, but he was pretty good at baseball. He was drafted by the Tigers. I believe he hurt his arm and never really worked out, but he was a coach at, I believe, Wayne State for a very, very long time. And yes, he was quite the ball player.
There you go. The gene pool to you. It's no wonder that you're here. It's no wonder that your brother is going to college to play ball. There you go. We are unearthing Kloss family history here every month. There you go.
He did. You know what? He did. I think somebody did from your family left us a voicemail from the line I still haven't heavily promoted, which I should. And I'm guilty of that. But nevertheless, yeah, Wayne State, it's so back in they had this little cool, a gallon of gas, by the way, was 32 cents. 32 cents in 1966. A dozen eggs, 60 cents. A gallon of milk, 99 cents. A movie theater ticket was $1.09.
Nice.
And minimum wage, $1.25 an hour. Yeah. So, yeah. By the way, the big hits of that 66 during that period of time, by the way, 96 Tears, question mark in the Mysterians. By the way, for anybody who's familiar, they're from Saginaw. That song rules. So if you check it out for anybody who hasn't heard that yet. And all right, the Cherish by the Association, and then the Ballad of the Green Berets by
Staff Sergeant Barry something.
Barry Sandler. That's
Sandler.
good. Yeah, there it is. So, all right, enough of the 66 flashback there. So, my good is Zone 12. Now, you're asking yourself, what is Zone 12? If you go to Baseball Savant StatCast, if you go to Baseball Savant, it is the top of the strike zone. So there's 19 different, I believe it's 19 different zones, I think it is, and they're all divvied up. And so this is a measure of on the top of the zone at 73% in terms of strike rate is one Jake Rogers. So Jake Rogers, and we saw that earlier tonight where he did a really good job of framing up the there was a pitch that the Trimble had earlier that he just was able to turn it was snapped to the bottom, getting back up to get for a strike. And so I thought that was a really good job of that. But I wanted to highlight that too, because for Zone 12, so for Zone 19 is kind of like the bottom right. So if you're looking at a strike zone in a box, and I can show this. Actually, this will be easier to show on YouTube, but I will, for everybody listening at home, if you're looking at a box, it is the bottom right corner of the strike zone. So I know it's probably perhaps a little hard to see here, but just an example. Oh, nice Herb Alpert reference. It's a good one there, Sergio. So let me see if I can get this. Okay, there you go. The bigger screen there. So Jake Rogers right there is got a 38% strike rate on the bottom right. That's impressive. That's impressive. Austin Barnes. But nevertheless, that's an example of why Jake Rogers needs to stay behind the plate more often. So he is framing the ball pretty well and giving the Tigers extra strikes when they need them. The other part of my good, by the way, and although he's did not have a good evening, is my good number is the number 20, and that is the barrels plate appearance for one Kerry Carpenter. So his swing spot, which is his sweet spot percentage, is a little low. It's at 27%. But as far as hard hit contact, he has 9 balls over 900 or over 95 miles per hour. And yeah, so he's barreling up the ball pretty nicely.
Yeah, and to Jake Rogers' point, he does have 2 hits tonight. Had an RBI. I think it was a single RBI. Yeah,
I was going to get to that shortly, but he's been good. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. And but yeah, Carpenter. I just wanted to point out some of the good things about the Tigers. My bad is my bad, really. It's so easy to beat up on entire Pittsburgh, or excuse me, the A's and how bad they are. But I'm going to point out something else instead. The bad was the play yesterday between Byron Buxton and Sosa, where they collided. And the reason why it's bad is Brian Buxton is a phenomenal talent. I don't care if he doesn't play for the Tigers. He's a fun watch. And if he's going, he's a division opponent. I get it. A lot of people don't like the Twins. I understand. But I thought that was bad in the sense that the Twins would lose him for a period of time. We would lose the ability to watch him play. Because Buxton's a fun watch. That guy gets down the line. He's a great defender. And the White Sox have been surrounded by this weirdness to him anyway. That continues because we saw last week with Ornell Cruz, or was it this week or last week? I feel like the weeks have been blending together.
It was last week, I believe.
It was last week. And the White Sox are surrounded by another this, but hopefully but he played DH today. He wasn't in the outfield today, and the Twins bombed the Yankees 11-2. Joe Ryan, by the way, 15 swings and misses. That's how good Joe Ryan. Like that.
I like that guy.
Yeah, I like that guy a lot. Twins have embarrassment. And here's the thing: what's interesting about the Twins is that offensively speaking, they're still struggling a little bit in some aspects. So
I can't believe the Rays traded that guy for Nelson Cruz, I believe. Nelson Cruz didn't do much for them either.
Well, to be fair though, Joe Ryan wasn't. I gave him a lot of props. He's been getting better since his time in Minnesota. So, props on that. And really, in terms of my ugly, really is as far as baseball goes and everything. It's been the weather's been really nice. So I'm trying to find things that are ugly going on, but there's certainly things you can find, even with the nice weather, is the fact that outside of the Tigers play is the idea like this, the idea that people or pitchers or teams or some players getting criticizing MLB teams for extending alcohol sales. Because with the new pitch clock, the game's a little shorter. So games are finishing up faster. And therefore, usually in some cases, you don't see beer sold after thinking, I'm not sure what it is at Comerica Park after the 7th or 8th inning. And it's usually the 7th inning. And they are just, hopefully his idea is saying that, well, hopefully the player it gives time for fans to sober up and drive home safe, which is the right attitude to have. And I'm nothing against this was Matt Stratham, but I think fans, I hope have enough responsibility to think of that already, no matter what, because right now you can't. The reason why it's ugly to me is because here we are celebrating on TV somebody ordering a big bat of beer. So it's, to me, it's like this. You can't have it. I don't know. It's just, the whole thing is just ugly in the sense that here we are talking about just teams are trying to get more money out of it. Obviously, they want to get the extra money, and they're right. Although we might not agree with it, but then you see on TV the picture of the video of the guy or lady with the big beer and the bat and kind of celebrating that. So it's kind of like just all hypocrisy throughout the whole thing. So I know it sounds like really weird, ugly, but there's nobody. I know you can't win both ways, but I think if fans are responsible enough, they're already planning this ahead of time, whether it's extended one more inning or not.
It's ugly in the sense it's unfortunate. It's a topic,
Yeah.
That we got to be talking about it, but revenue is revenue for this teams. They want.
I was joking with my brother the other night about the games are so much faster now that people aren't getting, they're not selling nearly as much stuff. So we were talking about like some sort of ballpark Uber service or whatever, where people are just roaming around and they go get the food and stuff for you. And
that's a good idea.
You can't do anything about bathrooms. I suppose you could put urinals in front of every seat for the men, but hey, I'm just saying. But yeah, because the concessions, I mean, the games aren't as long. People aren't getting as much food or as much alcohol, and that's a big boost to the money. So I don't know. Maybe they'll start pushing for how about we'll just go to 11 inning games now.
Or or even like they'll get more creative with during commercials, or they'll find ability to do something else with it. But yeah, the reason, go ahead.
I've heard pre and post game concerts are possible for some teams. They're thinking about.
That wouldn't shock me.
Yeah,
they do a lot of fireworks.
Yeah, I mean,
if I may interject here,
yes, go for it.
A bonus, good, bad, and ugly, all from the Erie game.
Did Erie come back and win?
Erie came. They tied it in the 9th. And then Altoona, here's how the 10th went for Altoona. They single, fielder's choice error, single. So they went up 10-6. And here's how it went for Erie in their bottom of the 10th. Walk, Gage Workman walked after that. So bases loaded. Workman walked on it was like an 8-pitch walk. It was pretty good. Josh Crouch doubled down the line to score 2 runs. Daniel Cabrera reached on a throwing error by the second baseman. It was going to make it 10-9 no matter what, just a routine ground out. But Leova Peguero threw the ball away from, 30 feet, and then he had to leave the game with a shoulder injury. So that sucks. So then Grant Witherspoon strikes out. Mario Feliciano, fielder's choice out. Third baseman, they threw Josh Crouch out at home. And then what happened? Trey Cruz with a little infield single off the first baseman's glove. Cabrera scored to tie it at 10, and then Colton Keith with a 3-run walk-off home run, his first in Double-A, and it was a bomb. And so there's your good, bad, ugly all in one. So that was.
Please tell me you got that right. You got that right.
I got it. That's if people looked at me looking down. That's what I was doing, getting those types of things.
Just doing the Lord's work.
Pretty good. Unfortunately, we weren't. We try to watch all the games whenever we can, but we also have lives and families and stuff. So we missed a decent amount of stuff tonight, but pretty good day on the farm for Tigers. I think Justin Henry Malloy hit his first home run.
Pacheco
hit his first home run. We got Colt Keith's first home run of the year.
Wow.
Not bad. Good night for the Tigers hitters. So, hooray for that.
And I think, I think all 4 teams won too, right? I know West Michigan was. I know West Michigan beat Lansing. Toledo came back and won.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Yes, winning does matter. Yes, 13-10 Erie, 6-0 West Michigan, 6-3 Lakeland, 13-6 Toledo. Not bad.
How are the Fighting Illiches doing?
Last I checked, they were up 3-1.
Okay.
Oh, speaking of winning, they're 1 out away from winning right now. Alex Lange is in for the save.
Okay.
Ground out. Looks like he's 1 ball, 1 strike to Kevin Biggio, what I see on my app. So, hey, could be a 5-for-5 night for the Tigers.
Not bad. I remember I said
first of many.
No. First.
Well, you know who else? Austin Murr hit a home run tonight, Yoop.
There you go.
I think he only homers in Lansing, I'm pretty sure. And Ben Malgeri hit his 3rd home run of the early season. Kind of a breakout candidate this year. He's doing his Parker Meadows thing. So
and he also had another hit too, so he had multiple hit games. So by the way, I have the call from Greg Gagne here, as we'll be posting it here on the audio side of things as soon as I hit the play.
10-10 in the bottom of the 10th. 0-1. Swing and a fly ball out to deep right field. Palacios goes back, turns around, looks up, it's gone! Touch of all time for Colt Keith. A 2-out, game-winning 3-run home run in the bottom of the 10th inning. Colt Keith's first AA home run. It's a game winner, and the Seawolves walk it off in the bottom of the 10th inning here at UPMC Park. Thanks to Colt Keith, a 3-run blast. His first.
By the way, I love their music after they hit home run. Was that the audio from the clip I pulled?
Yes.
So yeah, I feel bad. I cut him off a little bit there, but then they started showing the replay, and then his original audio was playing over it, so it was doubling up. I was like, I don't know what to do, so I just cut it off wherever I could.
The Tigers have won, ladies and gentlemen. The Tigers have beaten the Blue Jays 3-1.
You know what?
We beat MLB Pipeline to the pitch first.
All is well.
Well, I said before the series, 2 competitive losses and a win. And that's kind of what happened.
So. Yeah, well, and I did like your point about, like, Turnbull and Erod, some pretty good starts against a very good offense. So, you always feel better after a win, and it always feels like the end of the world after a loss. But, yeah, there's some things to draw from this. Jake Rogers with a big hit. And they did it without Javier Baez.
Yeah,
so,
I think there's definitely more positive and negative to take away from this series. I mean, they were 1 inning away from taking 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays.
Yeah, the good teams will figure out how to win that.
Yeah,
but you're right. I mean, that's the kind of, sometimes that's the margin of winning and losing in baseball is that thin, and sometimes it's tough. I'm sure the Tigers will have a win or two this year where like, whoa, all right, that got lucky there, but. Yeah, that's a good way to go home. They're coming home to play the Giants now, right? So, yeah, it should be a better plane ride, assuming there's not a fight on the plane or whatever.
Can we ask?
This is not the Bobby Higginson era.
Yeah. Can we ask for 2 out of 3 from the Giants series? I think that's realistic. No.
Let's not talk about that. We'll talk about that a little. Let's get to the questions. So we did have a few questions. Did we?
I was just looking. Yeah. So.
Okay.
We did. I saw a handful of questions. We've got Deadly Ninja Bees. Have you guys seen the Tigers OPS Plus? I haven't, but I know that they're last in WAR.
It's so small, it's hard to see.
You have to.
They were last in
30 decimal points is like pi.
Yeah, they were last in MLB with 577 OPS.
So this is just a series of snark questions from Deadly Ninja Bees. When Miggy, Scope, and Erod's money is off the books, will that be used to improve the team or build more Little Caesars? I think those are separate businesses. But and number 3, if the owner doesn't care, why should the fans? And that's, I think, Youp's central thesis if you were to write a dissertation on the Tigers. It's tough. without talking to Chris Ilitch or hanging out with him, we have no idea how much he really does care, right? Like, you would assume he cares a lot about his father's legacy and his legacy and this baseball team, but who knows? Rich people are very odd. Extremely rich people are very odd. And particularly when they inherited that wealth, things get funky. I don't know if anybody watches Succession. I want to, but
no, I don't.
But a lot of it is about that. So our number 2 question here is from Epic D3C, our friend of the show, and he said, "What do you think the Tigers can get in an Erod trade?" Now, I'm assuming he's not talking about right now, but probably at the trade deadline. You guys have any thoughts on that?
I still think that St. Louis is an ideal partner for this trade. I think that if St. Louis has got, it's ridiculous how many prospects they have. I mean, they're not going to get somebody like Mason Wynn, which would be, in a perfect, in a baseball or in a video game trade situation, then yeah, maybe. But I think it's really, knowing full well you can opt out, that's also the other thing. It's going to kind of hinder things a little bit. But I think if they can get a regular player that's signed at least for a couple more years, that they can fill a regular position like in the outfield or something to that effect, that, let's say hypothetically speaking, Parker Meadows is here and Riley Green is still struggling. You still want another veteran bat or something to that effect. Yeah, I would think maybe like a major league regular and a lottery ticket, if you will, scratch off.
What about like a similar return to the Joe Jimenez trade? That's kind of always what I've been thinking.
No, because again, he can opt out after this year. So if he can opt out, and he can just say screw you. And if he was signed longer, then yeah, definitely I would expect that. I expect a lot more from that.
That's the catch-22 of the whole thing. If he's pitching well, he's probably not going to commit to not opting out, right? If he's pitching well, he's going to opt out. So then if you trade him now, you're going to get, maybe what you got for Michael Fulmer last year, maybe a little better since he's a starting pitcher. I don't know. If you can make him agree to not opt out, if the team they're dealing with, if they give him a window to negotiate something, then you could probably do better. Maybe you can then get something along the line of the Jimenez trade or better. But if he's pitching well to make himself marketable, he's going to opt out. He'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals are a really good option. Maybe the Diamondbacks, if they continue to play well and they want to make a push for the postseason, and then the Angels as well could be another team. But I think the Cardinals would probably be my favorite choice because I think they have postseason aspirations and their pitching hasn't been that great to start the year.
If he's pitching well, the Tigers got to hope that Scott Harris is the kind of guy who can gin up a trade market, honest to goodness competition to get him. Then they can pump up what they get a little bit, even if they know he's going to opt out. But you need 4 or 5 teams that want him. He's got to pitch pretty darn well to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you might be able to package something together. Like, again, like if you get what you put in there, and if you're going to get 12 starts from Eduardo Rodriguez, I don't know if you're going to get more than like a minor league depth arm for that. Right. Honestly, it might really help the acquiring team, but they're just not going to pay a premium for that. It always depends on what the market is, but maybe you throw in an Alex Lang, and suddenly you might be able to get. I don't know. I'm thinking like you could get a former top 100 prospect who maybe has fallen, on some hard times or whatever. You maybe try to rehab him a little bit, something like that. But I wouldn't expect. I do think that, Justin Henry Malloy type player is probably about as much as you could possibly hope for. But again, you're talking about a starter for 12 games or so rather than a reliever for a full year. But you never know. It depends on the market. It depends on who needs help.
How well would he have to be pitching? I always think about this when contenders are shopping at the trade deadline for a pitcher. Are they getting that guy to make a playoff start? Yeah. And is Erod the kind of guy you're going to pay up a lot, because you're going to bank on him to take a playoff start for you? He's not that guy yet. And we've seen a good start now against Toronto. That was nice, but we're going to see a lot more before entertaining that thought.
Well, what about like if they packaged Erod and let's say like Matt Boyd or Spencer Turnbull, do you think then they could maybe get closer to a top 100 prospect? Maybe like a 2-for-1 trade where they trade 2 veteran pitchers to get a young player they really like?
If you include Turnbull, I would definitely think that, because you're talking about 2+ years of control, I think, with him still. So and still relatively kind of untapped potential. I don't know. Yeah, it's they may explore all that. It'd be tough to trade away 2 of your starting pitchers at the deadline when we know that they don't have a ton of depth. But who knows? Maybe by that point, Ty Madden's up firing 98-mile-an-hour fastballs past major league hitters.
I was going to say, I want to talk about Ty Madden before we get out of here.
One other thing I wanted to suggest, maybe I haven't seen. I saw, Zach Eflin was hurt. I don't know how bad it is. Jeffrey Springs got hurt today. I don't know how bad that was too. The Rays.
Well, Glasnow, do we know when he's going to be back?
He's not back this year, I don't think. Or he might be back later this year. Shane Baz is out for the whole year, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, the Rays have tons of talent, but
meanwhile, Matthew Lividor is looking really good for St. Louis.
Yeah, well, in the minors, yeah, he hasn't.
Yeah,
he's been pitching well in AAA. But yeah, so because getting Erod for half a year is what going to cost them $6 million, something like that, maybe 5. They're kind of spendthrift, and they also have tons and tons and tons of prospects. And the Tigers have a former Rays exec on their staff now. Maybe they could work out something there. I don't know if that's the sort of thing the Rays would do, but that's a possibility if their rotation keeps getting hurt and they keep winning games. It maybe it won't matter, but that's another team possibility.
Yeah,
Tigers could also pay some of the money and get a better prospect out of it too.
Yeah, theoretically. I don't know if have we seen them do that yet?
No.
Yeah.
No.
We've always talked about hey, just what if you pay more? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one thing I just thought of with the Rays was Isaac Paredes has gotten off to a good start. I don't know. I kind of want to do like an old friend checkup and see how everyone else is doing. I know Gregory Soto's struggling. I think Candelario's been decent for the Nationals, but I'm kind of curious to see how our old friends are doing in their new homes.
I think I saw Willie Castro had like a 2-for-2
Yes,
game.
Yeah,
he hit a gapper yesterday. I was watching that one.
And then Harold Castro's been playing in Colorado, I think, because of all their injuries. And Joe Jimenez was doing well. I think he gave up a home run the other day, but I don't think.
The StatCast numbers still favor him pretty well. But no, if Ty Madden goes out, he pitches on Saturday. So if he can put up another start like he did, I'm not going. I mean, we can get excited about that start he had in Akron, which was a dominant start. But if he goes out there and does it against Altoona, then I will get even more excited because Altoona they have the oldest roster in the Eastern League, and they have a couple of guys. They have one player, 33-year-old. They have a 33-year-old. What was the guy's name?
Juan Minaya?
No, not Juan Minaya. The last name was it starts with an I. Just can't think of. I have the internet in front of me. Maggie.
Drew Maggie.
Yeah, he's on that roster. They have a couple guys on there that have just been. They have some pretty good prospects too on the high end of prospect side of things as well. Palacios, Lolo Sanchez, Peliro, and Labia. Is it that right?
Domingo
Leyba. Wow.
Domingo Labia.
Wow. I'm gonna put an edit mark there.
Good day for Domingo Leyba, a former Tigers prospect in the same international class as Willie Adames. He has filled out considerably. He kind of looks like Jose Ramirez now. He's just kind of that short
bulk.
squat.
Yeah, bulky.
But he had a home run in the first game, and but he's 27. Like, what are you doing in AA? But again, like we said, the Tigers have done some of that too. They've had some older guys in AA. Quincy Naporti, the MVP last year, was 27 or 28. But yeah, they were just a bunch of really kind of advanced hitters, and so that will be a good test for Madden, because they were taking everything Flores threw, his fastballs, and just hitting them hard the other way. Like they weren't. It was really mature approach. That'll be a good test.
That's what I was going to say too. That was one thing about Erie, that they were getting beat down away quite a bit. It was just a lot of breaking balls, a lot of sliders they were getting beat by, and then if they were beaten by heat, it was up in some fastballs are just up in the zone. So, but nevertheless, I mean, all 5 teams won tonight. And so again, there is, as John alluded to, yes, there was some positive takeaway from the series in Toronto. And but again, it's still this roster. Yesterday felt like the end of the world based off if you're on social media or not. But going into the series against San Francisco, the Tigers will come home for that, and that's hopefully they only been at home once. So if you're looking at the schedule ahead for the Tigers going forward here, and with the beautiful weather, they are hosting the Giants, and then they have 3 against Cleveland. So they won't have a day off again until the 20th, and then they travel next week against Baltimore. So how does it look this week? They have the Giants on. I mentioned Giants. I'm trying to get the pitching preview for whatever reason. In the
Sean Evers, Joey Wentz, I think tomorrow. Anthony DeSclafani. I don't know who's pitching for the Tigers. What's that? I think that's Lorenzen, right?
Yeah, Lorenzen would be scheduled for Saturday.
And then Boyd.
Webb versus Boyd. So that's a tough.
And Webb's off to a terrible start. How I know? Because I drafted him, one of my top draft picks in fantasy, and he's doing terrible.
I sent you a fantastic offer for him.
I'm going to end the podcast with this. Uper is the only one that made me somewhat of a reasonable trade offer. I'm getting tired of people giving me trade offers every day. If you play fantasy baseball or any fantasy sport, and you're that person that continuously bothers somebody for a trade, knock it off. Stop it. It's stupid. Okay?
Let's revisit the word somewhat. Somewhat reasonable.
Uber, did I tell you some of the offers I was getting? Like
you're saying that his offer was somewhat reasonable.
Yeah, somewhat reasonable.
My offer was good.
No, well, no. Again, it's just anyway.
That's fine.
Whatever. So on that note, thank you so much for listening to Motor City Metrics podcast. Here we'll be back on Sunday evening as we will talk back. We'll be recapping the Giants series. Hopefully, the Tigers have a couple wins under the belt. Hopefully, John is correct. I'm going down to the ballpark on Saturday and Sunday to see what's going on, and hopefully, it is a much happier AJ Hinch. And it's going to be interesting to see when they come home and his patience with the media. So
no base running blunders in Raj's presence.
No, please not. I just want, what I want? I want a winning homestand. That's all I want. I don't think it's too much to ask. But check out for everything over at TigerMLReport.com. You can find the podcast there. You can find, if you want to subscribe to our Patreon, we got a couple of subscribers last week, so thank you. All that money goes for us to travel around the minor leagues, and I can pay people. And if you please subscribe to the Motor City Metrics YouTube channel, we're getting close to 1,000. We're about 70 away, John?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So 70 away. Keep, like I said, and if you want to make a donation too, there's our PayPal, and there's so many ways you can help us out. So again, thank you so much for everybody who has checked out our work and sent us anything. We really appreciate it. And we will talk to you again. They're also go to Motor City Bengals. I got to promote this, motorcitybengals.com, or call a pen. I'm writing over there, and I'm also running a prospect stuff for Fansided National. So check out that stuff, and check out our recap of Erie at TigerMLReport.com, TigersMLReport.com. And Jerry, by the way, I should plug Jerry. Jerry's been doing some fantastic work. He did a really quick story on Matt Verling.
Yeah, no, and he's also our tech wizard.
Yeah,
because I was, we've got Statcast data for AAA games and low A games, and so I'd been just scraping it manually and doing manual math to find out average exit velocities for these guys and pitching numbers and all that stuff. And he was like, I can do that manually. He set up a program to do it all automatically, and it was fantastic. So I didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, Jerry, does Jerry work for the government or NASA or something? Because some of the stuff he's doing, I'm just like this. I'm like,
well, that's the benefit of he knows programming language. I think Martin does too. So it's you kids out there, learn how to program and also learn Spanish, and then you'll get a job in baseball.
Sí, por favor, porque necesita hablar español. No, seriously, Jerry is an awesome guy, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with him this summer down in West Michigan or in Lansing. So we'll see you Sunday. Have a good weekend, everybody.